Well, hello and welcome to the Main Straight, the official F1 in Schools podcast. It's my pleasure to welcome you back. I'm your host, Tom Deacon, and I tell you what, and I'm just going to get straight into it. What a blockbuster of an episode we have for you this month. And can I just congratulate myself and everyone who's been a part of making this podcast that we have got to the lofty heights of double figures. This is episode 10, which is a perfect time to get me to remind you guys that you should definitely, if you haven't already done so, listen back to some of our previous episodes, because this podcast is about bringing you insights, some real gems, some nuggets of advice for your STEM competition, progress and your journey. So make sure you go back and have a little listen. For example, our last episode, which feels like only yesterday we recorded, it was brilliant. It's titled Reunited, and we had a former team competing in F1 in Schools who went to the 2018 Singapore World Finals, which is, can I just say now, very poignant for today's episode. They competed, and in that episode, what we really gathered from them, their advice was different strengths and individual passions make for the strongest teams. So if you're listening and you've got a team with you right now and you all have different ideas, this is perfect. This makes your team even stronger. So they have some absolute gems to listen to, and you can hear about their journey and what they've gone on to do after F1 in School. So that's episode 9, but this is episode 10. And today I have two brilliant guests who I'm actually going to say I admire the work that they do. They work tirelessly, these two guests today, and I can't wait to get them on the show. And we are going to be talking about the Aramco F1 in Schools World Finals, which is taking place in Singapore. It's at the Resort World Sentosa. I've heard many rumors about how good it's going to be, and today we'll get to find out what you guys have in store. So, I should also point out, because I put a note in front of me, if you haven't already done so, make sure you follow the podcast, give us a little review. It really does help. And of course, if you're not already following us on our social media, make sure you do that on Instagram. It's at F1 in Schools HQ, and that is where you can always leave us a message, say hello. We love to hear from you, which is what a lot of people have already done, and I have got loads of your questions to ask our guests today. Well, let's welcome our guests to today's show. We have a shared exclusive. That's how we build this. We have Nelson Vale, Head of International Operations, and David Howes, Director of Communications and Events. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi there, Tom. Good to be here. Hello, Tom.
You sound not so inspired or energetic, Nelson. It is getting closer to Singapore. I've looked at my calendar. It's a month away. Is it dawning on you, or are you getting that excitement so far, Nelson?
No, I think it's just I need some holidays before going into Singapore. I need some Portuguese sun, and that's coming very soon.
Oh wow! Well, listen. Do you know what I did this morning? In fact, I looked at all of the 68 teams that will be competing. This is the biggest ever. We're billing it as the Aramco F1 in Schools World Final. 33 countries competing. It is going to be mega. So I can understand, Nelson, your apprehension of needing a holiday. And I'm sure all the teams competing are thinking about that golden thing that we always talk about, time. Time is running out, and how you use it is so wise. But before we get into this then, guys, David, I'd just like to ask you, Director of Communications and Events, what does that mean? What is your job, Dave?
Well, I mean, I'd like to think I do exactly what he says on the tin, but basically the crux of my job is making sure that our global event, the World Finals, is put on to the best ever that we can do. But obviously F1 in Schools has a lot more involved in what we do. And we are actually quite a small business. So my job description sort of doesn't just end there. It's a little bit expanded on that, as is Nelson's. And so all of the coordination, making sure that F1 in Schools is this global phenomenon that it is, actually happens. But the crux at the moment, as I said, is literally getting this event underway. As he said and scared all of us, it's a month out, but the plans are definitely there. And I managed to get my holiday last week. I'm very pleased Nelson's going away for his holiday, but equally terrified that he's going to be away for 3 weeks just before the World Finals.
Yeah, I imagine that's what the teams are going through as well. When your teammate can't attend something and you start panicking, and it is a well-oiled and run machine that is
Absolutely.
F1 in schools. And you need everybody to be part of it. Nelson, Head of International Operations, for those who haven't heard your other exclusive moments on other podcasts, what does that entail?
Well, it's basically helping new entities coming and joining our amazing project and becoming representatives for us. My daily job is not only supporting the current partners who are helping us to deliver the competition in many, many countries, but also to make sure that new partners come on board and they know everything about the competition. So it's a little bit my preparation work throughout the year is going to help feed teams into the World Finals event. But not only, because if you think backwards, it all starts in school events and then regional finals, national finals, and then yes, the teams are selected to the World Finals. So we need the competition running properly and with lots of teams registering from all around the world.
I mean, the teams that are going to the World Finals in Singapore, we haven't even said that fully yet. Singapore in September, starting on the 10th, it is going to be incredible. And they've already achieved success in their home countries. I feel like this is going to turn into a quick quiz now. So I didn't give you a buzzer at the beginning of this podcast, but Nelson, Dave, let's get up to speed very quickly on the first question. How many people are attending? Quick buzzer in.
Barnes.
Go on, Dave.
Yeah, this really is going to be the biggest one. We've got around about registered at the moment, 733 people, which is insane. Now, that's the judges as well as the students and teachers and supporting guests and everything. But what we're not including there is our VIPs. And of course, we have a lot of people dropping into the event from the world of Formula One, from our sponsors and partners. And also our colleagues over in Singapore are also going to be recruiting a lot of schools in Singapore to come along and visit the event as well. So we are expecting it to be incredibly busy, which is exactly what we want. It's this first fully functional World Finals since the pandemic. So we're over the moon to have this many people involved.
Well, there you go. I'll give you a point for that, Dave. That is the exact correct answer. Nelson, I'm going to put you on the spot here. How many new teams from new countries are taking part?
Well, this year, between the 68 teams, we're having two new nations completely in the World Finals, and that is Poland and Slovenia. So
wow.
Welcome, guys.
Yeah, and I'm just putting you on the spot again, actually, Nelson. I hope you don't mind this. Mm-hmm. There is one team competing from Portugal. They are Next Team K Racing. Are you going to be unbiased? That's the question people are asking on social media, Nelson.
Actually, there's two teams competing from Portugal, but I have to say, like if we see our flag flying high, and I've seen the Portuguese flag fly high in many STEM events, and especially throwing back into 4x4 in schools a few years ago, where the Portuguese team won it. It's you cannot keep your feelings away, and that little tear just rips through your face. But you can keep a part of it, but still supporting the competitors from your own country. But we're going to be there, Tom, to support in an equal way every single country.
I will give you 2 points for that, Nelson. That is the correct answer on that. And interesting enough, I take you back to Singapore 2015. The Portuguese team finished second. They were called Mustangs. And that was back in 2015, which I just said. Now, here's the thing, and I think we've even sort of spoken about it. The combination of all these countries coming together, so many people, as we found out, Dave, the energy is going to be ferocious. There's going to be so many teams wanting to get to know each other. There's a great vibe, and it's a fun event to be in. Just before we get into the nuts and bolts of the podcast, Dave, any favorite moments from you over the years, taking back to 2004 in Coventry when it first started?
Well, yes, I was a much younger man back in 2004, but yes, I have been involved in F1 schools since then. I think I love the fact that every year we try and do something to improve the World Finals, and that's certainly the case for this year. I think my most memorable moment, though, is actually hosting the award ceremony on turn 1 of Yas Marina circuit on the night before the F1 cars were hitting the track. And thanks to our partners over at Yas Marina circuit and the whole team, we managed to pull that off. And forever that will be in my memory that we managed that.
Yeah, that was 2019. Are we talking 2019?
2019.
Yeah.
2019, yes.
The UK team Evolve won that, and it was brilliant to see all of that come together. And as the events manager and organizer, that must have been a tense moment, right?
It really was. You think of the number of logistics that have to go right for us, but also Formula One are on the circuit trying to put on a Formula One race weekend. So we had to really synchronize in with all of those logistics, and what a fantastic job everyone did. And it was, as you said, when the fireworks were going off at the end of that event, it was a huge sigh of relief. But I think there was more emotion in the team that we actually managed to deliver that particular moment. But that's not taking away from any of the other World Finals, because we have literally grown this from a very small event in a very small venue in Birmingham, in the middle of Birmingham back in 2004, to what is one of the biggest, well, is the biggest STEM event in the world, really.
Yeah. Nelson, any emotional moments that stand out for you in all of those years?
Well, I have to say I don't have one memory. I have three.
Oh, okay.
So three. So the first one, it was the first time I participated as a judge. And this was many, many years ago. And I remember just feeling, whoa, what is this? What is this impact that this competition is having in the students? And we weren't competing back in Portugal. We were just participating as guests to see what was all about. But then the second memory took me to what you mentioned before, Tom, see Mustangs in the podium, and that was the end of a journey of almost 5 years, where teams were really struggling in the leaderboard up to, you can see your students, and I was kind of the local coordinator back then, you can see the students reaching success. So that was also a very happy moment. But the third one was actually by the end of the first event that actually helped the team to host. And this was 2016 in Texas. And the feeling was, this was hard work. This was hard work, and I never actually felt it from the other side. I mean, as a guest, it always looks brilliant. But it's hard work that the team puts on. And that feeling of, we do this for the students, for them to have an unforgettable moment and unforgettable memories. So yeah, those three moments, as a judge, as a participant, but then on the coordination side, are definitely the ones.
Those are perfect moments. Infitude in Austin, where you're world champions from Australia. Just to sort of take a second, why is it, and this is a question for me, and we will get to all of the questions we've had on the socials and the F1 in Schools HQ on our Instagram, but why are the Australians so successful in the world finals? Because I know there's so many teams. I looked at it, out of this 14 plus podiums. Now that is including teams that have combined as a collaboration. Why are the Australians, in your opinion, Nelson, so successful in this STEM competition?
I think that success just made teams becoming more motivated to pursue the other team's positive results. You know, it's always difficult, and I felt that in Portugal, and I was trying to motivate my students. They didn't have the benchmark of Portuguese students back at the day in terms of, all right, what success are we achieving in the competition? And I was trying to motivate them as, look, it doesn't matter if you're from Australia or from the United Kingdom or from any other country, you can still do it. They've been riding the waves of success and showing the students that they can, and they can win, and by that motivating other teams to win. But you know, the Greeks managed to win it, and also Ireland. So we want more countries to come on board and to show us that they can do it, because anyone can do it. You just have to believe.
Yeah, I love that. That is the motivation that we expect from Nelson. All right, then let's talk a little bit more about the actual in-depth of what's going to happen in Singapore. First of all, Dave, how long does it take to plan an event like this?
Well, as you can probably imagine, it is a very big event to coordinate. I'd probably really start to focus in on the event about 6 to 8 months before the World Finals. So for the most of this year, it has been the priority of my task list. But we are actually already planning 24 and 25 at the moment already. So that's how far in advance the initial planning has to take place. Obviously, locking in venues. We're not just going into small ballrooms anymore. We're going into huge venues in very important parts of the world. And so those venues are very busy, especially now where a lot of people are back into fully attended events. So we have to get our contracts locked in with these venues very early because we need to take a lot of hotel rooms. We need to have a lot of space. For example, the Resorts World Sentosa in Singapore is actually Asia's biggest column-free ballroom. And as you can imagine, for that reason, it is a very, very popular place to be rented by many people, from massive weddings as they have over in Asia, through to pop concerts. And that's the sort of stuff that happens in this venue. So we have to get that locked in very early. We have to work with the governments as well, because bringing so many people into a country, we work with them on logistics and security. And we also have big relationships with the tourism boards as well to make sure that we are promoting the country in the way that we want to, and working with them to make sure it's a great event. So it is a long time, but as with any of these sort of event planning, as you come into the last month, everyone starts focusing in on it. Our partners, our sponsors, everyone within the staff team. And so all of a sudden it goes from a 2-hour day to a 10-hour day planning. And I have to admit, I have just pretty much worked through the weekend to make sure some of the key points are in place now. But yes, at least 8 months planning for the event.
Wow, it's incredible. I guess a lot of people don't know how much time goes into it. I suppose you are competing, the teams are there doing what they're doing. You wouldn't even begin to comprehend that. And when will you start building the stage, etc.? And can we expect anything new and exciting compared to last year at Silverstone?
Yes, you can expect something new and exciting, but I'm obviously going to give nothing away right now.
Okay.
So, yes, we do try, as I said, and do some fun stuff. Unfortunately, we can't take the award ceremony to the circuit this year, mainly because Singapore is quite famous for some torrential downpours that happened to have early evening. So we just couldn't risk putting the event outside as we could in Abu Dhabi. But lots of great things being planned for this year.
And so that staging, when will the likes of the legend that is John Fagg, who does a lot of the tech stuff, everything that happens on track, he's set up a whole system to help us to be able to get the best racing underway. When will he be going out? When will that begin to happen and come together?
Well, the staff team will be flying into Singapore on the Sunday before the event. We then have 4 days together. Obviously, we want to acclimatise to the climate and also to get our heads into the time zones as well. But we take ownership of the ballroom on the Friday, so Friday the 8th of September, and that's when the event build starts. And we have to complete it by 2 p.m. on the Saturday, because the students will be going in to do their pit display builds from 4 p.m. on the Saturday. So we have a day and a half build, and a lot of people are involved in that build. So John will be on site from the beginning of that week, but as with everyone else, the production really starts to get underway first thing on the Friday morning.
Okay, all right. So that's the logistics, and the food. Is there going to be food? That's something that I wanted to know.
There's going to be. I love going into Singapore. The food, they fame themselves for their food, and believe me, the food is going to be amazing. So. Yes, there's going to be a lunch every day for the participants, and of course we have our awards evening as well, which is going to we have, in the past we've done a sit down dinner for that, but as you can probably imagine, with the numbers that we've gone to for this year, the logistics of seating probably 800 people for a sit down dinner, it adds a huge complexity to the event. So we are moving that to a very comprehensive pre-event buffet dinner, but it will be a standing buffet before the event.
Oh, I was just sort of nervousness, as from once being a waiting staff member myself, 700 plus people waiting on them. Wow. So I'm glad you've done that, Dave. Nelson, the competitors heading there, there's been a fair few changes to some of the rules, expectations, a halo feature. There's so much that those competitors can expect. This shouldn't be a scary moment. This should be an exciting moment, shouldn't it, Nelson?
Yeah, definitely, Tom. I mean, I'm super excited to go back into a full physical format, first of all. I mean, not that Silverstone wasn't great, but we still didn't have the students facing the judges face-to-face like we normally had in Abu Dhabi in 2019. So the pandemic was what it was. We want to throw that into the past. And we're just so excited to come back into the normal format. So, the teams are kind of also getting their heads around again what a full physical event is. But yeah, the pressure of facing the judges. And we have the challenge of the technical regulations demanding that the teams using the halo, so that this kind of changed their design perspective on the car. So this it's been very interesting to see the development and the preparations for that. We also have, and now it's not a secret anymore, that we have developed a new deceleration system. We're calling it the Halo deceleration system. So having the Halo is not only a design feature, but we are also going to use the Halo to stop the car and to potentially to whoever wants to try it, because it's going to be optional in 2023, but to whoever wants to try it, hopefully the breakages by the track end are going to be reduced. Because historically, some front wings and some rear wings suffered some damage during deceleration. We also have a nose cone challenge, a replacement challenge, where teams are going to be challenged to replace their nose cone structure in under 60 seconds to mimic a little bit the pressure of F1. We know that F1, when they're trying to replace the entire front wing in case of damage or breakage, they need to do it quick. So we want our students to think in terms of how can I also change my front wing very quickly. So we're going to be challenging them, and we actually have an award for that, for the fastest one. Very exciting too is we're going to take the teams to the track more often now. In previous years, it was only one racing session a day. Now the teams, and if they haven't noticed on the regulations, the teams are going to go to the track in the morning of the first day, in the afternoon of the first day, and then again on the second day. So that's 4 racing sessions. And they're always going to race against a different team. So that's also very exciting, especially on the presenter side. Tom, you know how it is. They love to race against another team. And in terms of knockout elimination races, this is on day 3, we are actually being able to select more teams. So we're going to go and be able to select 48 teams for the first round of the knockout. And let's not forget about sustainability and the efforts that we all been trying to put into the competition. We've been trying to challenge the teams to think about how they build their pit displays, the materials that they use, not only on the pit displays, in everything from car manufacture to actually how they print their portfolios. But regarding the pit displays, we want them to use more recycled materials to reduce the waste that it's produced. So we are very excited to see the outcome of those planning sessions that the teams had. So we're very excited for this year.
Oh, that's great. Well, I wanted to know what was new. Now we do. This is perfect. So I can get excited about this. So the event is set up. Dave's looking after that. Nelson, you're looking after all of these changes, new awards coming in. Before we get to the social questions, what are you most looking forward to, Nelson, about Singapore then?
I think I'm most looking for is the buzz, the energy of all the teams on site. There's nothing quite like it. I mean, I think teams enjoy the remote events and the virtual events that we have done, but there's nothing like having 68 teams feeling the energy in a room, and especially during the awards, where we're always, all of us together, waiting to see who's going to be the next F1 in Schools world champions.
Yeah, it is definitely not a tension, a kind of atmosphere of I guess it would be too strong to say love, but the love of competing and the love of the whole competition. You just feel a real sense of warmth, I guess, the whole time. That's what I'm definitely looking forward to. And whoever gets onto that podium, all of the teams take something away from the whole event. Dave, what about yourself? I mean, obviously, this is fingers crossed. Everything goes to plan. Like you said earlier, when the get-in is, you've got less than 2 days to get everything set up. What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as event director, I just want it to be a safe, happy, and completed event. That's the main thing. I'm actually, outside of the competition, really looking forward to the fun bits that we're putting into the competition for the students as well. We've got one hell of a day planned on the Thursday. So I'm looking forward to seeing the students' reactions at the things we got planned on that day.
And we are going to have to, on this podcast, take David's word for that, because he will reveal no secrets. Classic David House. But no, I like that. You're building up that anticipation. All right. Well, we did ask the listeners of the Main Straight, the official F1 in Schools podcast, to send in your questions. And I've actually got one for you, gentlemen. How many times has a world final taken place in Singapore? Fingers on the buzzers.
Buzz. 2010, 15, 18, and now 23.
Boom! Congratulations, Dave. This is the 4th time. So this is, if you exclude the UK, 4 times. This is the most other nation that we've gone to hold a world finals. Nelson, can you name 2 other countries that have held a world final that have both had it 3 other times?
3 other times. Abu Dhabi.
Correct. Can you name the other one?
Another 3 times. Texas was 2. Malaysia, that I can recall, was 2. It's going to have to be a question for Dave.
Okay, Dave, can you jump in there and take the point?
I'm going to say, is it Malaysia?
Kuala Lumpur. 3 times.
Yeah.
There you go. Congratulations. It's amazing to look back, and I strongly suggest anybody who is listening to go back and look at all of the previous winners. It just gets me so excited for a month's time away. And it is going to be brilliant. And as we've heard from Nelson and Dave, so many things are planned for all of the competitors, and it is going to be the biggest world final ever. So, hey, it's so much to look forward to. Let's get to those social questions then. How many awards are there in total?
I will take that one. 22, Tom?
22. Okay. And can you name them all in 30 seconds? No, I wouldn't do that to you. No, I wouldn't do that to you.
Oh, I probably could. But...
okay, you get to the world final. You've achieved so much. What do the world champions get as a prize, Nelson?
Well, as a prize, I will leave that one to Dave.
Okay. Well, as a competition, we do pride ourselves on the fact that what you're getting out of this competition, whether you become world champion or whether you just go for a regional final, you're actually doing something that really is going to put you ahead of your peers when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to putting your CV together. So just want to make that a very clear point, that becoming world champion doesn't necessarily defeat the objective of anyone getting involved in the competition at the very basic level of regional finals. But we do obviously have 2 university partners, UCL Engineering and City University, who are providing bursaries for scholarships as a prize. And we do give our students some very exclusive opportunities. They will be taken into the F1 paddock. The world champions will be going on the main podium and having quite an exclusive access to the paddock as well, where they'll be able to meet their heroes. And the majority of this is not necessarily the drivers, but also the heroes within the engineering teams of each of the Formula One teams. And outside of that, obviously, there is a huge opportunity to take your knowledge and your skills into your future careers.
Okay, perfectly said there. And actually seeing some of previous competitors from regionals and national finals, seeing them at the paddock for Silverstone and seeing how incredible that is. It really is a truly awesome prize, and the fact of knowing that everyone competing can add this to their CV and helping them in their future careers, whatever that may be. What are the after party plans? I'm going to say this is asked on socials, but it's actually my question.
Oh, was it? All right, okay. I'll jump in here. I will give a little bit away. So on Thursday, I said it's going to be a special day a moment ago. But Singapore Grand Prix and the events team at Formula One are giving us some amazing access. F1 in Schools will have an exclusive pit lane walk. So we'll be taking 700 people by 13 coaches to the circuit. So you can imagine the logistics behind that. And the students will then be able to take a very leisurely stroll up the pit lane. And if a team has won their a trophy from a Formula One team, they'll be invited into the garage for a bit of an exclusive garage tour. And we'll be staging a very impressive photo on the main starting line with the F1 safety car as well. So something exciting to look at there. Then we've got to get everyone back on the coaches to the after party. And the after party is going to be at a very fun, exclusive location. But I'm not going to tell you where it is just yet. But because it helps to say safety reasons, we are going to have to announce this very soon. But yes, it's a great venue. There's just a few T's and I's to cross and dot before we make the formal announcement of that location. But it's going to be great fun and some great fun DJs and performances will be happening as well.
I think you're giving too much away, actually, Dave. I'm actually going to step in there and say that is enough, because it's mouthwatering just alone. Getting into the garages, truly exciting stuff. Nelson, there's been a fair few questions on the rules. People would like to know, how do you go about developing the new rules and regs?
Well, we have a very special group of people that come together and decide how to make the students' life very difficult. No, I mean, jokes aside, it's all about challenge the students more and more. Every time that we tweak the rules and regulations, and don't let me forget about revisions, Tom. I just want to make a few mentions about revisions. But every time that we change the rules and regulations from one year to the other, it's because we want to challenge the students more. We want them to feel that, right, okay, someone has mastered the formula to win in a specific year. We need to change it, exactly like Formula One changes it. Because if you get too comfortable, you'll find the solutions and then there's nothing else to kind of develop. So we change it. It's like the whole purpose of bringing the halo was to stir the pot of the design. Okay, the car design had to change to accommodate the halo. So this very special group of people that has very special people like Gary Anderson with 40 years of experience in F1. Gary, if you're listening, thank you so much for helping us every year. And, the whole point is, how can we make sure that we still protect the education side, but we keep challenging them on the technical side? Because in the end, they're going to have to find a way of manufacturing, if designing, and then manufacturing these cars in order to test and race them. Just a quick note on revisions, because sometimes I have teams very upset with me because we're launching revisions sometimes mid-competition. Like we had to launch some revisions 3 months before the event started, 2 months before the event started. But it's quite normal. We want to close loopholes. We want to amend information that it's not correct in the documents. And the only way to do that is by making revisions. And if people think that F1 doesn't make revisions, I would advise them to consult the FIA website and check the revision number that they are currently on, because they do revisions and with a couple of weeks' notice, the teams have to change. But we keep it on a prospect of making sure that the teams are still feeling that they are in a fair way participating in the challenge. So any modification is only to make sure that everything is fair for the competitors.
Okay. And Nelson, a brilliant question I'm just looking at here said, how many cars do you think will be fully legal?
I hope every single car, but it's quite challenging with the different classes on the competition. And in the UK we have entry class, development class, professional class. So it keeps getting more. Okay, we could say difficult. I like to say more challenging. But for the teams participating in the World Finals, with this new set of regulations, it's also a little bit more difficult to make sure that they do not fail anything. So it's quite common to fail specific regulation here and there. As you know, there are regulations that are more important. The performance regulations are quite scary because they have the consequence of the awards in terms of fastest car and best engineering. But I really hope that the teams will fail less and less. In 2019, there were quite a few teams that didn't fail any regulations. So we hope to get more teams with a clean sheet.
Perfect. Yeah, great way of...
Can I add something?
Oh, please.
Tom, actually. One of our new partners, Mr. Toyo, the metrology experts, they're really keen to help students to understand what it is to measure, how to measure. And in the next few days, we'll be sending out a newsletter with some access to some amazing tutorials that Mr. Toyo have put together for the competition. And this isn't just relevant for the world finalists. It will be relevant for anyone taking place in F1 in schools, and will hopefully enable many more students to become fully compliant.
I don't know how at that moment in the podcast, I obviously would turn to Max Fernley and say, can we highlight that moment somehow so everyone just goes, oh, what must jot that down. Talking of sponsors then, Dave, is there such a thing as too many sponsors? And I'm talking specifically for the teams competing.
Well, I think from that question, myself and Nelson were chatting about this the other day, about how many is too many sponsors. Because the key thing here is, can you deliver to those sponsors that you have on your team? And if you can't, you're not going to get those sponsors back. So if you have too many, you've got to make sure that you can give all of them their return on investment and make sure that you're delivering on their behalf. So for F1 in schools, we have quite a clear two levels of sponsors, our core sponsors, and then some in-kind sponsors. And they are, basically helping us to make sure that we deliver this event. But can you have too many? I think the answer is yes, you can. But of course, you have got to have enough money within your team to be able to compete. So you've got to get that balance right. And a lot of the teams are very well financed, and other teams are very have a lot of sponsors, but aren't necessarily so well financed. You need to work out what levels you're selling your sponsorship at to make sure that you have an ability to enter the competition, have enough money, but also, as I said before, make sure those sponsors are happy.
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant question, so thank you very much. Of course, Nelson. Yeah.
Tom, sorry. And also to say that if a team looks at the rules and regulations and it goes into the sponsorship and marketing KPIs, there's nowhere that says or defines a number of sponsors. So it doesn't really matter if they have 1 or 50. What matters is, like Dave was saying, what have they done in return? What was the connection like? What have they used from that connection into their work? So it could have been in kind, it could have been sponsorship, simple stuff like painting their car or getting their amazing little polos to showcase, but then making sure that the sponsor is having their return of investment with their brand. It's not about quantity, it's about quality, but above all, how they explain to the judges that relation, how that relation worked.
Yeah, and another question that came in was a best way to organize some last minute sponsorship. Now, that question feels like, to me, a team are suddenly going, hang on a minute, we could do some more cash injection into this project so that we can get the best in the world finals. But how would you go about organizing that last minute sponsorship and the best way to deal with it, Nelson?
Well, I think this was another question that me and Dave were working on it together and discussing it together. So we can complement each other's responses. But, it could be, there's always a way. When there's a wheel, there's always a way to get a last minute sponsorship. If we look at what students do from regional level, like washing cars or baking cookies, that's a kind of a very low level activity, low cost, but they can give them a little bit of extra funding. But it's about never giving up. Keep hammering the potential partners. If an email is not read, go and knock on that door until the partner actually knows who you are. Because, we receive thousands of emails every month, and the sponsors from other projects, I guess that it's the same. But for you to show them that, really help me, support me in this amazing STEM project, they really need to convince them. So never give up. Again, if the email is not being answered, pick up the phone or go in knocking on those doors.
Yeah, and I think I would just add, make sure you're giving something that is going to benefit them and isn't going to clash with your other sponsors. So that's important. Don't just go grabbing a sponsor wherever you can find them. They've got to fit into your whole marketing mix.
A big question that comes through is sustainability. It's huge in real life F1 with everything they're trying to do for net carbon zero in 2030. In what ways do teams incorporate sustainable practices into their projects, both in terms of materials used for a car manufacturing and their overall approach to minimizing environmental impact? It's quite a big question, that. I don't know who wants to step in on that one, but sustainability is such a big part of the competition as well. So how do they go about that then?
Well, if I just start off on this, I mean, obviously you referenced F1's net zero sustainability goals by 2030. We're obviously part of Formula One, and that's an objective from our point of view as well. But I think that the key thing here is actually the generation competing in F1 in schools are the generation that are going to solve our bigger climate issues and sustainability issues. And they are coming up across the board at regional finals through to national finals. And of course, at the world finals, many, many ways to present sustainability. And I've seen some fantastic ideas and solutions coming through at many events. And it just makes me realize we're going to be in safe hands.
I like that positivity and these great minds are going to be helping us out. Nelson, what do you take from that sustainability question?
Same thing. I mean, I have seen the students having thoughts about all the stages of the process regarding sustainability, from the parts that they are actually developing on the manufacturing journey. If they're using a specific material, they are researching about it. So, considerations on the engineering bit, considerations on the marketing area too. It was super easy for teams in the past to just be producing marketing items made out of plastic. The mentality is changing. They are thinking about different alternatives, different materials, because, every little action will have a big consequence. So they are thinking not just on the parts on their cars or their marketing, but also their actions. Because we all leave a carbon footprint, and the teams do strategies to kind of help with that. If it's planting trees, we have seen in teams from Brazil doing, but a little bit all over the world too. Any little action, it's important. So, so all the teams are definitely considering sustainability in all areas of the competition.
Mm-hmm. Moving on from sustainability, I asked whether there was anything other, because you've got topics of questions, and I think other is one of my favorite, because you never know what you're going to get with a question that says it's labeled under other. So I'll ask you this, Dave, because you are the Director of Communications and Events. Is the competition open to visitors, and also do they have to pay if they are allowed?
Good question. Excuse me. Yes, the venue in Singapore will be open to visitors to come along, and we have a lot of people registered already, and you can go onto our website and get the information about that. We do need you to register with us so that we can issue accreditation, and there is no charge to just come and have a look at the main competition days. So that's hopefully music to people's ears. Obviously, our students do pay a participation fee, and that gets them all sorts of lovely extras, including their lunches and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, visitors won't get access to that, but that's understandable because you're getting a free ticket. The award ceremony is slightly different, as you know. We've got a lot of people coming into that, so that is a paid ticketed event if you're not one of the competitors. And again, those invitations have been sent out. But to come and see the actual core racing and judging and see the students' displays, anyone can come along and anyone is welcome.
Okay, well, I'm just going to let everybody know now that I love traveling the world. I love eating a lot of food. I like trying all of the different foods, as Nelson will back me up on this. So there will not be any food left from day to day of the competition. I'm just going to let everybody know that. Nelson, here's a question that actually I don't mind if Nelson or yourself, David, steps in. If you are over the age of 19, how do you get involved with F1 in schools? Now that's an interesting question, because people, even myself, would like to know. How do I get involved? Because it is so fun. it is infectious. You want to have a bit of it and take part. So if you are 19, how can you get involved, Nelson?
I mean, look, Tom, we're very happy then when students conclude their journey on as a competitor by the age limit, by reaching the age limit defined in the competition regulations, that they want to continue and stay connected. There's a few routes that they can take, because we want every single student and every single ex-competitor to continue to promote and help us promote the competition to new generations. So becoming mentors to new teams, that's the first super easy one. If your journey has finished, why not helping and mentor a new team, a new generation of students from your school, from your city, from your country, to come on board and feel and go through the journey like they did. A second one, a little bit more complex, but alumni love it, is participating as a judge. There's different levels of judging. Of course, we cannot have every single fresh alumni competing in the World Finals level as a judge, because we need to privilege seniority, more experienced judges in the World Finals. But there's school events, there's regional events, there's national events to gain experience. So volunteer throughout your local F1 schools coordinating team and say that you are available to help them becoming judges. And again, help us inspire a new generation. And the final one is, if F1 schools does not exist in your country, because we still have lots of countries without F1 schools, and you had the chance to compete, help us take F1 schools to your country. Maybe become the local representative, the local coordinator. Help us grow the challenge.
Okay, that is a perfect answer, because it is, I believe, and you can correct me, 11 to the age of 19. Is that correct? So that's why the question has been asked by this person to say, I'm now at 19. Can I still compete? No, essentially. But after taking on board everything you said, they can still very much be a part of F1 in schools. Dave, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I think obviously we are, with our name, we are F1 in schools, but there are many other things that you can move on to. And a lot of our students go into a university competition. It has different names around the world. In the USA, it's called Formula SAE. In the UK, it's called Formula Student. And this is where the university engineering and mechanical engineering and automotive engineering departments actually have a competition where you're designing a proper single-seater vehicle. And that is a natural progression for students from the F1 in schools competition. And quite often, F1 in schools students do become the team managers of those Formula Student teams, because they just have great experience and it's the next point on your CV, basically.
Okay. Well, I think let me just double check the questions. Those are all. I only have my questions, but you know what I can do, Nelson and David, is I can email you those direct. Because no one needs to hear those right now, but I cannot wait for it. And I know that, as we found out, Nelson, you're looking forward to that holiday, a little bit of rest, because you will need all of the energy you can muster for this World Finals. It is going to be incredible. Well, thank you very much for your time, Nelson. David, I assume there's nothing else to add from your point of views?
Well, we actually would want to wrap up the podcast with just a few positive thoughts about the event. Is that right, Tom?
I would love that. It's
just to kind of remind the teams that we are putting our biggest competition. Of course we are. It's lots of teams competing, and everyone has their objectives, their goals. Everyone wants to win an award. There's teams that come with the direct objective of winning the World Finals. It's not possible for everyone to win. So if you don't reach that objective, don't be heartbroken. You are still a champion just for participating. But read the regulations carefully. Prepare for the event. Don't forget any of your project elements. Do not forget that you need a verbal presentation, an enterprise portfolio, a project management portfolio, 2 cars, a design and engineering presentation, a verbal presentation, etc. Don't forget about all of that, but also don't forget to have fun. Okay, it's an amazing opportunity to make friends. we are talking about, and just let me look at my list again, 26 countries, 33 nations, if I'm correct, of friends that you can engage with. And you will make friends for life. We always say that this is an unforgettable experience in all aspects, not just on the competition and how real it gets, because, a point may make the difference between winning or losing it. A millimeter may make the difference between your car having a failure or not. But do not forget to make friendships. And those will last a lifetime.
Well, I can add to that because I feel like myself, Nelson and David are all friends. So I've definitely grown and gained some friends. David, any final positive take on what Nelson has just said?
Well, I mean, that was absolutely perfectly put, Nelson. So I don't really want to say anything else. But just well done. Congratulations. You've made it to the World Finals, or you made it to the national final, or even just made it to a regional final or state final in your own country. Well done. You've done an amazing job.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, a shared exclusive with Nelson Vale and David House. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I will see you in Singapore.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
So there you have it. So good to chat to Dave and Nelson about the upcoming 2023 Aramco F1 Schools World Finals taking place in Singapore. Now, for everyone who was listening to that and thinking, well, I'm not going to the World Finals, well, you might be in 2024. And that leads me on to say a massive congratulations for everyone who competed at the Lenovo F1 in Schools UK National Final, which took place at Leeds University. I was there, and actually, I don't know why I've been holding on to this the whole show. Now, if you are listening to the podcast, this will make no difference to you, but if you are seeing this, I've brought some of the winning confetti. Try and drop it on the microphone. Nope. That didn't work really. You can't hear that. But basically, an incredible event, incredible competition. And the following teams will be going to the World Final in 2024. So I hope they were listening and took on some of those absolute gems of advice from Nelson and David. You have Golden Motorsports. They were your champions. Vega Racing from Scotland. You also had Racing Sigma as well. And for the Welsh champions, Epoch, doing the Welsh very proud. And also from the development class, Inferno. They will be competing in the 2024 World Finals. Phenomenal competition, an amazing event, and just a massive congratulations to all of them. They're not the only ones who deserve a bit of a shout out. All the way in Mexico, we had the finalists taking place, and basically the professional class, Girls Tunnel Tech 2, Diva Force, and Lasta doing an amazing job. They were your top three. So actually, this has turned into a bit of a news moment in the podcast. And to do that properly, I should actually get involved in the podcast. The one and only PDC, producer, director, and co-host. It's Max Fernley. Max, welcome to this month's podcast. How are we doing?
I'm good. It's been a few episodes since I've been on. I've still been editing. It's just been very busy. It's good to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back. And I just suddenly realised what I was doing. I was turning into the news section, and I suddenly thought, well, I can't have you not here. So a lot's been going on. We just heard about the finalists and everyone who was on the podium in Mexico. And of course, you were at Leeds University as well for the Lenovo F1 Schools UK National Final. But that's not the only news, is it, Max? There was Silverstone in the actual real life F1, and you were, I feel like you were always in the paddock, whining and dining, chatting to all of the famous people. Did you have a good time?
Oh, it's a brilliant time. And obviously yourself was there, and it was good seeing you hitting it big time for F1 Track TV.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I had the absolute pleasure and loved it. And I have to say, it was probably the most nervous I've been in a long, long time. I had a role to play for the actual British Grand Prix. For all of the spectators were there. I would be filming, and it would be shown on the main screen. And it was a real delight. And it was so cool to walk down the paddock. And I had a job to do, but every time I'd see someone in the sort of outfit of F1 in Schools, there was just a real warm feeling I had where I was like, there's my guys, the people that I love. And to see you and Dave and Andrew Denford, the founder and chairman of F1 in Schools, it was just brilliant to see. And we had competitors. Though somehow I didn't manage to chat to them. Were the competitors there as well?
It was good. So the actual reason that we were there was to take the Lenovo F1 in Schools UK National Finalists 2022 from when we hosted the Nationals in Birmingham around the paddock, and they got Garage Tars exclusive just for them, purely for the fact that they've got a podium at the National Finals, and they will be going to Singapore. So that was basically their reward, and they had a great time. So it was really good seeing their faces light up. So they had tours around Ferrari, they had Alfa Romeo, Red Bull, I believe, and it was just a really great atmosphere for them. They met so many people, including the likes like Christian Horner, Valtteri Bottas. Charles Leclerc was one of them. That was a good one. He actually came up and got a selfie with our national champions, Team Eclipse. So it was a great day. Great weekend, in fact.
Yeah, special memories being made. And there was one thing that we should always tell people who are in the paddock, and I'd never experienced it. If you want a picture with someone, they are in the middle of working. So you have to almost run alongside them. They will not stop and wait. That's why you always see on Instagram, on anyone's social media, you get like 3 or 4 seconds with that person. You need to have a selfie. You need to get their arm out and take a picture with them, because they are going places. They need to move from the mobile sort of HQs they have straight into the garage. It's ferocious. There's so much going on. So if you do go to the World Finals in Singapore 2024 and you get a prize like that, make sure you don't miss out on those opportunities, because if you stand still, you won't get a picture, will you?
No, so that was something that Eclipse found out the hard way, actually. I think it was Pierre Gasly that Javier tried to get a photo with, and he walked straight past him. He was like, they expected him to stop, and unfortunately, Pierre was clearly not in the right time for him to stop and chat.
Yeah.
So they learned that, and then they ended up changing the ways and managed to get some photos, which is a great day for them.
It's a learning experience. It is definitely a challenge. Well, I'm glad that everyone else, were there any other teams that got to celebrate in that same way?
Yeah, so we actually had Team Eclipse, Honeycomb Racing, Nightingale, and Team Astra, who were our primary champions. Team Astra actually got a sit-down talk with Ruth Buscombe, the head of strategy for Alfa Romeo. So they had a really good chat with her, and it was just great for them to get an insight. So when they come back as a secondary team, they get to use the new knowledge that they've got from someone that's actually in Formula One.
And I know for a fact that my co-host for Singapore 2023, Amy Martin, was there and got all of the pictures that she wanted to of the F1 driver. She is an Uber fan, and if you are going to be attending in Singapore, she'll be co-hosting with me. So yeah, brilliant times. Max, great. I think that's a perfect way to round out this month's episode of The Main Straight. Nothing else to add?
We do have one more thing that you've missed off, is the fact that F1 in Schools Slovenia got to go to Hungary to see the Grand Prix. So they took a few teams there, along with Team Sonic Boom came from F1 in Schools Germany. They attended the World Finals last year at Silverstone, if you remember them. They had a certain energy drink that they were spreading around with a chant. But yeah, we had Team Lightfly from Slovenia, who will be representing their country at the World Finals in Singapore. So they got to experience the Hungarian Grand Prix, which was a great experience for them too.
Yeah, Chair of Judges Willie McKeown took them, I think, and showed them around. So amazing stuff. How could we forget not to mention that? Best of luck. And Slovenia being a new nation competing in F1 in schools, all the best to them. Well, there you go. Amazing stuff is happening at F1 in schools. If you'd like to keep up to date with us, make sure that you are following and subscribing to this podcast. Definitely, if you can, take 2 minutes. It won't even take 2 minutes. Just give us a like and maybe a little review. It will help for us to get more brilliant content on this podcast. And make sure you send us more questions. Part of today has been about answering some of your questions that you wanted to get answers to, and we've been able to do that. And to do that, go to the Instagram at F1 in Schools HQ. Simple as that. Well, that means that's the end of the podcast. I feel sad. Why do I suddenly feel sad, Max? I feel sad. Hey, I shouldn't feel sad.
It's the end of another monthly episode, so you can look forward to the next one, which hopefully will be Singapore.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Well, I'll see you there, Max. And to everyone listening, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.